Extraterrestrials remains one of life's greatest mysteries, but while many of us remain undecided on the issue, our next guest believes she has concrete evidence that they exist.
Well, Kathleen Marden claims that 56 years ago, 2 of her family members were abducted by aliens and taken on board a flying saucer. She joins us live from Florida to tell us more. Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us today. So tell us what happened, because this was your aunt and uncle, Barney and Betty, 19th of September 1961. So what happened to them?
Betty had a vacation from her job as a social worker for the state of New Hampshire. Barney worked for the post office. Neither believed in UFO reality at that time. They had never read a book on the topic. They took a brief vacation to Niagara Falls, onto Toronto, onto Montreal, and they were driving home through the White Mountains of New Hampshire on September 19, 1961, when they had a close encounter with a UFO. It came so close that it was within 100 feet, estimated by them, of their location. Barney got out of the car with his binoculars. He looked up at it, and according to the Air Force report and the report that they made to the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, very shortly thereafter, they observed a craft that was approximately 100 feet above them. It was extremely large. They told the Air Force that it was as large as a dinner plate at arm's length. Keep in mind that an aspirin will cover the full moon at arm's length. This was very close to them. It was observed by at least a dozen additional people. It was on radar, on the Air Force's 2 radar stations, and a follow-up study by the Air Force stated that this was a bona fide sighting, not just a blip on the radar screen.
So he got out, Barney got out of the car and he got his binoculars out. What did he see? Because this really surprised me, what he saw at the windows of the craft with his binoculars.
The early reports state that Barney saw figures standing behind the windows on this craft. They were dressed in black, shiny uniforms, and he described them as being, quote, somehow not human, close quote.
So I mean, that's the first time, because we always see these pictures of the aliens that people draw with their close encounters. It's the first time we've heard of aliens in sort of uniforms and caps.
Yes. Now, Barney believed that he saw a cap on some of those individuals' heads, because when they turned sideways, something seemed to be protruding from the forehead area. He did not describe that later on, only in that early report.
And then what's interesting from there is what happened next. So he very quickly ran towards the car, because a red beam of light came out of this spaceship, and he ran towards the car, said to Betty, we need to get out here, we need to get out here. And there was a noise, a sound, and they felt this sort of feeling come over them, and then they woke up and realised they'd lost 2 hours of time.
Yes, Barney became terrified when he began to think that there was a plan for him, and he said, quote, that he was going to be captured like a bug in a net. He ran from the field he was standing in back to the vehicle, jumped into the car, and started to race down the highway to try to escape from this craft that had, at that point, moved over the top of the vehicle. He told Betty to roll down the window. She did. She looked up. She expected to see lights. There were no lights present. All she saw was blackness, even though it was a bright, light night. The moon was about 3/4 full. She rolled the window back up again, and at that point the car started to vibrate. She and Barney heard a series of buzzing sounds striking the trunk of the car, and suddenly they found themselves in a new location, and they were 35 miles down the road with very little memory for what had happened in the interim. They did recall that they had encountered a roadblock somewhere along the way. They had also observed a fiery orb They did not know what that was. It was a vague memory. Later they realized that it was moving, but they were not moving. They drove on to their home in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and found evidence that something unusual had occurred to them.
Well,
Betty's dress was torn in several locations.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I was coming on to that because the zipper on her dress was broken. His shoes were in such a mess that he had to throw them away. And your concrete evidence, which we said in the introduction, is quite interesting. The pink powder. Explain that.
Betty's dress was torn in several locations. There was a 2-inch tear in the zipper fabric. The stitching at the top of her dress, a 1-inch tear in the thick zipper fabric. The dress was torn from waist to hemline, and the hem was torn down on one side. It indicated that something had happened that Betty could not remember. It had been in fine condition when she put it on that day. She folded the dress up when she arrived home and put it in her closet, knowing that she would have to repair it. The next time she took the dress out, it was covered with pink powdery substance, not the entire dress. Some of it remained blue, but the pink powder discolored the fiber in the dress and degraded the fiber. And
So
these are according to laboratory analysis.
We'll come back to the pink powder in just a second, because that's obviously very important. But they suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder after this, and then they went under hypnosis. And under hypnosis, they remembered what had happened, much more of what had happened in those 2 hours, because they were communicated with in English.
Yes, that is correct, but let